I was standing in the checkout line at the grocery store when my phone buzzed. I thought it might be a reminder for my doctor's appointment, or maybe a message from Daniel asking if I'd picked up his almond milk. But no, it was from him. Just 6 words. Cold, flat, no punctuation. "We're done." I filed, "Don't call." My breath caught. I thought it was a joke. But then another notification popped up. Bank of America. Joint checking. Balance. 0. There. I stared at the screen. Frozen. The cashier said something, but her voice was muffled, distant, like I was underwater. The eggs slipped from my fingers and hit the floor. I didn't even flinch. After 22 years of marriage, Daniel, my husband, my partner, the man I built a life with, had ended our marriage through a text message, and while I was out picking up milk and frozen peas, he'd emptied our joint account. Just like that, I left the cart, walked out of the store, sat in my car, and stared at the dashboard for what felt like hours. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone out the window. But more than anything, I wanted to understand why. We had no fight, no warning. He had kissed me goodbye just that morning, told me, "Drive safe." And now, he was gone. And so was every dollar I had trusted him with. I was 49, unemployed, with no savings, no backup, no partner. But here's the thing he didn't know. He thought I was weak, that I would break, that I'd beg. He had no idea who I really was. And this is the story of how I lost everything and took it all back. Daniel wasn't always this man. Or maybe he was, and I just didn't want to see it. I met him at a small community book club when I was 27. He wore a navy blazer, talked about Steinbeck like it meant something, and made everyone laugh without trying too hard. But when he spoke to me, it was different, focused, warm, like he truly saw me. At the time, I had just moved to Richmond after leaving a stressful accounting job in D.C. I was burnt out, starting fresh. He was 5 years older, confident, charming, and to my lonely heart, he felt like a safe harbor. We moved in together after just 6 months. He always said things like, "Why wait when you know it's right?" I thought that was romantic. Looking back, it was pressure disguised as passion. We got married in the backyard of his parents' house. It was small, sweet, and perfect. I wore a second-hand dress. He cried during his vows. Everyone said we were the kind of couple you don't see anymore, old-fashioned love. And I believed them. For the next 2 decades, we built what looked like a good life. Daniel worked as a financial advisor. I freelanced as a bookkeeper and slowly stepped back as his career took off. I let him handle the investments, the accounts, the retirement planning. He always said, "Babe, this stuff's too stressful. I've got it." And I trusted him because that's what love is. Right? We never had kids, miscarriages, tough conversations, then silence. We poured ourselves into other things, renovating the house, planning retirement trips, volunteering. I made casseroles. He played golf. It was quiet, comfortable, a life made of routines. And for a long time, that was enough for me. There were red flags. Of course, little moments that didn't sit right. The way he'd shut down financial talks with a joke. The way he suddenly needed his phone with him, even in the bathroom. But I chalked it up to stress, middle age. Marriage has ups and downs, right? He always made me feel like I was overreacting, like I didn't understand how the world worked. And I believed him. That was my biggest mistake. Not loving him, not sacrificing for him, but handing over everything, my trust, my time, my future, without keeping even a small corner just for me. If only I'd asked more questions. If only I had checked the bank statements. But I was busy keeping the house running, making sure his shirts were pressed, and the dinner was hot when he got home. He'd smile, kiss my cheek, pour himself a glass of scotch, and say, "Oh, I don't know what I'd do without you." I didn't know either, until he showed me exactly what he'd do. The unraveling didn't start with a bang. It started with a whisper, A whisper I heard one evening when he was in the shower. Daniel had left his laptop open. That never happened. I wasn't snooping. I was just going to close it. But a message popped up from someone named Candace. Miss you already? Last night was wow. Can't wait for Cabo. My heart dropped. My brain tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a spam message? A client? But when I clicked, it wasn't just one message. There were months of them. Dozens of emails. Flirty. Romantic. Explicit. Plane tickets. Hotel reservations. Dinner bills from cities he never told me he visited. And then, a spreadsheet. Titled Exit Strategy. It was color-coded. It had dates. Amounts. Account transfers. He had been moving money out of our joint account slowly. $300 here. $5,000 there. Into an LLC I'd never heard of. Every business trip in the past year had been a lie. He was funding a new life. With her. And I was just the loose end he needed to cut. I shut the laptop slowly, like it might explode. I didn't cry. Not yet. I went to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, looked in the mirror and whispered, "You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're being played." And I knew I had two choices. Break or build a plan. I chose the second. That night, while he slept beside me like nothing was wrong, I took photos of everything. Screenshots, email threads, bank statements. I backed up what I found to a USB drive and emailed copies to a trusted friend. I didn't confront him. Not yet. You only get one shot at a man like Daniel. And I wanted it to count. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the role of the loyal, oblivious wife. I made his lunch, folded his shirts, listened to him complain about his boss. But behind the scenes, I met with a lawyer, a good one. She looked at the financials and said, "He's hiding assets, but he's not as smart as he thinks." Turns out, that LLC, it was traceable, and since we lived in a community property state, everything he earned during our marriage, even the money he tried to hide, was still half mine. Then came the text. He sent it while I was at the grocery store. "We're done." I filed, "Don't call," just like that. And 5 minutes later, the bank app confirmed it. $0. Suior. He thought he'd won. He thought he'd ghost me, disappear with his new woman, and leave me broken. But what he didn't know was that I was already 3 steps ahead. I immediately called my lawyer. She filed an emergency injunction to freeze any accounts associated with his name. Then we served him at his office, in front of his coworkers. That afternoon, he texted me again. "What the hell are you doing?" And I replied with 3 words. "Check your accounts." But the real shock came at the pretrial hearing. He swaggered in, all smug and sure of himself, with Candace by his side. I didn't look broken. I wore red, sharp blazer, steady voice. I watched the blood drain from his face when my lawyer handed the judge a thick folder labeled Evidence, Hidden Accounts, Timeline of Infidelity, Financial Manipulation, Photos, Receipts, Emails. He couldn't deny it, couldn't run, couldn't even look me in the eye. The judge wasn't impressed by his crocodile tears. "And Candace?" She quietly slipped out before lunch. He stood there, alone, while I sat, unshaken, next to my attorney, reclaiming the power he thought he stole. We found out he used part of the joint funds to pay off Candace's credit card debt. She thought she was getting a future. All she got was a frozen account and a subpoena. And me? I wasn't done yet. The courtroom was cold. Not just the temperature, but the energy. Daniel walked in like he owned the place. Crisp navy suit, hair slicked back. That same smirk I once found charming now made my skin crawl. But I wasn't the same woman who folded his laundry and believed his lies. I had documents, dates, bank records, and something stronger. Control. When the judge asked if I had anything to present, my lawyer stood and handed over a stack of evidence, neatly tabbed and highlighted. Every transfer, every reservation with Candace, every lie. Then came the big one, the fraudulent business account he tried to hide offshore. Daniel's smirk twitched. "Your Honor." My attorney said, "Mr. Kent systematically funneled marital funds into private accounts, lied about their existence in disclosure forms, and used those funds to finance an extramarital affair. My client has provided verifiable evidence of financial misconduct and emotional distress. Then she turned to me. I stood. My voice didn't shake. He didn't just leave me. He robbed me while smiling to my face. He emptied the account I trusted him with, and he left me with nothing. On purpose. For the first time. The room went silent. I wasn't the only woman he had done this to. A paralegal in my lawyer's office dug up an old annulment case from Daniel's first marriage. A woman he left after a brief engagement and mysteriously wiped out a joint investment. She testified via Zoom, another piece of his charming past. Now public record. The judge leaned back, folded his hands, and said slowly, "Mr. Kent, you do realize marital misconduct has consequences, not just legally, but financially." Daniel started to object. My lawyer raised her hand. "Your Honor, we're seeking 70% of all remaining marital assets, plus spousal support, and reimbursement for the $58,000 in hidden funds." The judge nodded. He granted all of it. The house he thought he was keeping? I bought it out from under him. Here's how. While the trial was pending, Daniel tried to sell our marital home to a shell company, on paper, but I had already flagged it with a real estate contact. I made a counteroffer through an LLC in my name, using the assets frozen from our joint fund. Daniel signed the paperwork without knowing who the buyer was. The look on his face when the judge confirmed I was the legal new owner of the house? Priceless. Outside the courthouse, he stormed out, tie askew, phone to his ear. I walked by slowly, heels clicking, holding the folder of final rulings. He called out, "You ruined me." I stopped, turned to him, and simply said, "No, Daniel, you did that all by yourself." After learning, he misrepresented his finances to her and used her name to open a credit card. She filed a civil claim for identity misuse. She cried in her statement, but I didn't feel sorry for her. She was complicit. She just didn't think she'd be replaceable too. That was the final nail. 1 month later, I moved back into my house. Fresh paint, new locks, no more ghosts. I started teaching workshops at the local women's center, Financial Boundaries After Betrayal. Women came from all over. Some cried, some raged, but all of them listened when I said, "You don't have to stay broken, and you don't have to stay quiet." He thought he could take everything and disappear, but what he didn't know, what most manipulators never understand, is that a woman who rises from betrayal doesn't come back the same. She comes back smarter, stronger, and dangerous to anyone who ever thought she was weak. It's been 14 months since Daniel walked out of my life via text message. 14 months since I stood in a grocery store aisle, holding my breath as my marriage, my finances, and my sense of reality collapsed all at once. And now I sleep better. Now I laugh louder. Now I know who I am when no one else is watching. After the court ruled in my favor, people expected me to throw a party, but I didn't celebrate with champagne or revenge. I celebrated by getting my name back, on the house, on the accounts, and more importantly, in my own story. I changed the locks, donated the last of his golf trophies, tore down that framed photo of us from our 10th anniversary trip to Sedona, the one he had cropped her into years later on Instagram. Instead, I framed something new, a quote that hangs above my desk now. "What tried to break you became your making." I poured my energy into something bigger than him. Me. I took financial literacy courses, attended support groups, and became a certified financial coach for women over 40. Turns out, there are thousands of women just like me, smart, loving, trusting, and blindsided. We share coffee, we share tears, we share bank statements and battle plans, because no woman should ever be caught off guard by someone she built a life with. And yes, before you ask, Daniel did try to come back. 3 months after the ruling, he showed up at my front porch, hair thinner, eyes dull. He had the nerve to say, "I made a mistake. We had something real. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream." I smiled. Then I said, "You made a choice. Now I've made mine. And I closed the door, not with anger, but with peace. That was the real win. Mini reflection, what I learned. Betrayal doesn't define you. Silence does. When you allow someone else's cruelty to write your story, you disappear. But when you stand up, when you speak, you reclaim your voice, and that voice can change your life. I'm not telling you this to play the victim. I'm telling you this because I was one, and now I'm not. Today, I host a podcast called The Second Act Sisterhood. We talk about money, boundaries, reinvention. We laugh. We heal. We don't pretend we've got it all figured out, but we show up every damn day. And if you're listening to this, if you've ever felt discarded, invisible, or replaced, let me tell you what someone once told me. Your power isn't gone. It's just buried under someone else's opinion of you. So dig, get messy, get angry if you need to, then rise. Not just out of the ashes, but with fire still in your eyes. Final line, with a soft smile. He divorced me by text. He emptied our account, but he didn't take me. And he never saw me coming. If you found strength in this story, there's more where that came from. Stories of women rising, rebuilding, reclaiming their lives. Subscribe to the channel, because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living like you were never broken.